That sounds fun. That sounds fun.
Hi, friends. Welcome to another episode of That Sounds Fun, The Seasons. I'm your host, Annie F. Downs. I'm so happy to be here with you today. Today on the show, we're answering a really important question. How do I find rest in this season? But before we jump in, I want to tell you about one of our incredible partners, BetterHelp. Workplace stress is now one of the top causes of declining mental health, with 61% of the global workforce experiencing higher than normal levels of stress. Yikes. We work hard to make sure that is not the case here at AFD Inc. A summer vacation is amazing, but it isn't a long-term solution to stress. Don't forget that therapy can help you navigate whatever challenges the workday or any day might bring. BetterHelp has over 30,000 licensed therapists, and it's totally online, easy to use, super flexible, and you can opt into a session right from your phone or computer. And it works, too, with an App Store rating of 4.9 out of 5 stars based on over 1.7 million client reviews. As the largest online therapy provider in the world, BetterHelp can provide access to mental health professionals with a diverse variety of expertise. Talk it out with BetterHelp. My friends get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/thatsoundsfun. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/thatsoundsfun. And today on the show, one of our most beloved guests and a standing Hall of Fun member is back. Friends, John Mark Comer is here. We knew we had to have a conversation about rest this summer. It mattered to me that we talk about this. And y'all know how much Sabbath and rest is a priority for me. And I know y'all love talking about it too. So of course, we called John Mark Comer, bless him for taking time out of his life to come and talk about this with us. His work on this topic has had a massive impact on so many of us. If you've never read Garden City or The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry, both of those books helped me so much with prioritizing rest. I really recommend you adding those to your summer reading. If you're following along in your TSF Seasons Guidebook, we are on page 80. It is never too late to join us. So if you still need a guidebook and you are going to want to take notes today, you can find that at anniefdowns.com/seasons. Okay, here's my conversation with one of our very favorite pastors and friends, John Mark Comer.
That sounds fun.
Okay, so before we jump in, today our question, we're kind of talking about rest, which that of all your teaching, that's what kind of most directly changed my whole life.
Yes.
You haven't been on the show in about a year-ish, year and a half, since January of 24.
Oh, wait, I have my mug.
Your Hall of Fun mug?
I saved it for this.
I'm so glad it
I forgot to make
arrived.
myself some coffee or tea, but
Right, there you
here
go.
it is. I feel like when this came in the mail, Annie.
Isn't that hilarious? You know what happened is the last few
Wow.
people who joined the Hall of Fun said, when I told them congratulations, they said back to me, "What's the prize?"
Yeah, you
And we
need
were
a
like,
prize.
We actually haven't given anybody anything. Let's mail all, because there's 15 of you. We're like,
This
well,
mug
everybody
just
gets a mug.
screams like grandma made this for vacation vibes,
Dude,
you know?
You have never described me better than that right there. You need to know, on our family vacation, I am in charge of the gift bag. That is what I'm in charge of.
Of course you are.
Oh,
100%.
I live for it. If you knew, the
It's
back
like-
of my RAV is just full of bags when I had to
You were
vacation.
like the wild, fun grandma when you were 14 years old. I could
Nailed it.
I know it.
Nailed
it's
it.
in you.
Weird that I didn't get a lot of boyfriends back then. Weird, right? Super strange. Okay, update me on the fam. Everybody's in California. Wildfires, all the things. Give us kind of a flyover of how you've been since we saw you a year ago.
Yeah, the fires were crazy. They stopped just out the window of my house. That was a house you can't see online here that burned. And it was a really harrowing experience. And we were in the process of starting a house church right around the corner from where the fire started. And so that kind of obliterated the community that we've been working on for a year. So it was a really hard time. And we wake up now just deeply grateful that our home made it and that we're all safe and sound. Yeah. And but the homes of a number of our friends did not. Yeah. And the displacement, so it is what it is. But it was a crazy few weeks online for the world, and then everybody else here, we live in it every day now.
Still your every day. Yeah, you drive by it all the time.
Yeah. It will be years before it's kind of back to normal here. So But we're really grateful, and
Yeah.
family's doing well. Our oldest has gone on his gap year.
Yeah.
So he's been gone for this year, but he hasn't seen the place since the fires, actually.
Oh, wow.
But he comes home at the end of the month.
Yeah. Man, John Mark, to do too much theology so early in the show, there is this, a younger version of me would have said to you, God spared your house. God drew a line. Angels stood there and kept your house from burning. I still think that's true. And a lot of people did lose their homes.
Yeah.
How do you, for any of us, for people who are, their friend meets the guy they're going to marry and they don't meet the guy they're going to marry, or for the person who they do get healed and someone else doesn't get healed. How do we hold the tension of those two things at the same time? That you don't have to say this, but I do believe God rescued your house, but a lot of your neighbors, that is not the story. So what do you do with that?
Well, I think there's two layers to that question, which in some sense is like a question that goes back thousands of years for the people of God. And there are really good-hearted, intelligent, thoughtful people that come to different conclusions about how to, you're asking how to interpret circumstances, in particular, the ones that we would consider, quote, bad or painful, involving pain and suffering. And there's a theological answer to that. And then there's a more spiritual or psychological answer to that, And I think the first thing you need to do is just attend to the pain. Like there is just pain and survivor's guilt and disorientation. And I think there's a lot of theology out there, or there's a lot of pain coping mechanisms masquerading as theology out in the world.
Yep.
Hence, the line, God is in control, to which I always, want to gently say, go read 1 John chapter 5, verse 19. It's the only time that phrase is ever used in the New Testament. And then people look it up and they all wig out because it says, we know that the whole world is under the control of the evil one.
Wow.
So the one time that phrase is essentially used by the New Testament writers, it's referring not to God, but to Satan. And so, that maybe betrays some of my theological paradigm that I would hold loosely, because I know there are other thoughtful people that would interpret circumstances differently. At a theological level, I think there are multiple wills at play in the world. There's the will of God, who's patiently, persistently working for good. I have a will that I think consistently does not do God's will.
Yeah.
And inconsistently does God's will.
Yeah.
Every other of the 8 billion human beings on the planet, my neighbors and friends, they all have wills. Often they do God's will. Often they do not do God's will. Often they do what is like not just out of alignment, but in antagonism with God's will. Satan and all of the kind of demonic spirits of the world that populate the universe, as hard as it is for our Western minds to comprehend, all have wills, many of whom that are in active, open rebellion against God's will and his kingdom. Yeah. And I think even nature at some level, you think about a wildfire, has a non-sentient will. These mountains I live in were designed by God or evolution or both to burn every 40 years as a part of their cleansing mechanism.
Wow.
And we live next to them. And there's global warming, and all of these things conspire together in a complexity that is so far beyond my ability to comprehend. Mm-hmm. And so I think trite answers like God's in control or whatever. So in my multiple wills theory, it could have been that angels stood in my backyard and stopped the fire. Or it could have been just the way the wind blows through this canyon. And either way, I'm grateful. So I guess for me, just from a discipleship lens, what I come back to is not, I think a lot of times people reach for some rigid, simplistic theory of God's in control or this all happened for a reason as an attempt to hold the anxiety of life. And holding uncertainty and the chaos of the world is incredibly terrifying. And most people don't want to do that. And so they will reach for often biblical sounding ideas that often even vault the power of God, but it's actually, I think, a way of just coping with chaos.
Yes.
And I think a better way to do that, because that's like a short-term solution, that works when your house didn't burn down. When your house does burn down,
That's right.
then you are left with a crisis of faith. And it's not a crisis of faith for the early Christians, because they had much more of a, what theologians would call a warfare theodicy, meaning they believed there were two kingdoms, the kingdom of God and the kingdom of darkness. They were at war with each other. The kingdom of God was an invasion of the kingdom of Satan, but the primary kingdom ruling the world in this era was the kingdom of Satan. So just like you would imagine so I'm watching Band of Brothers with my teenage son right now.
Yeah.
So it's a guy reference. Sorry, Annie,
no.
but
I know
you
it.
expect, if you're a soldier in World War II, you expect wounding, casualties, violence. You're not troubled existentially by, where is the president of America in this? You're thinking, no, we're at war.
Yeah.
So that's how early Christians thought. It's not how kind of a lot of Protestant modern Christians think. And so it creates a crisis of faith that I think is just totally unnecessary. So I think a better way to hold the chaos, whether it's wildfires or the things that every one of us face, is just to say, listen, I don't know what's happening here, but I know that God is with me. And I know that if I surrender to God in this pain and release the illusion of control, that God will patiently bring good out of anything.
Yeah.
Anything, any suffering, any pain, even my sin. God can and will patiently and persistently bring good out of it. And I think that's the Romans 8:28 thing, which is misread to say everything happens for a reason, which is not what it's saying.
Yes.
It's saying, listen, if you patiently and persistently surrender your life and pain to God, God will patiently and persistently bring good out of it. And that's where I think God does that so consistently that often in hindsight, we reinterpret our experiences to be somehow some secret plan of God. And I don't think it was. I think often it was some satanic evil, but God brought so much good out of it that I think sometimes we're like, it must have been God's plan. I'm like, I don't think so. I just think God is that good and is so faithfully with us. So
you make such an interesting point of when your house doesn't burn down, it's easy to say, and that's just the example we're using. But when the good quote quote thing happens to you, it's easy to say God's in control. But you're right. I mean, you know my Enneagram, you know me very well. Can we get out of this pain now? Can we get out of this worry now? So if I can Band-Aid something, and a version of me used to love to Band-Aid something thinking that would make it work until you remove the Band-Aid and the infection is banana pants. And
a Band-Aid's great if it's a cut, paper cut, or it's not good if it's a, amputation.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Have you had AJ Swoboda on this show yet?
No, but you know what? Nijay Gupta just reached out to me and was like, you've got to have him. And we talked about him today.
Yeah, AJ's a buddy of mine, lovely soul, brilliant. You would love, I can connect you. You would love chatting to him. But he is not there anymore, but he was a church planner in Portland the same time as me. So we were kind of pastors in arms for a decade plus in Portland. And he used to talk about what he called the New Oregon Trail, which was all these people, mostly from the South, that would kind of intentionally get out of a more Christianized culture, and they were drawn to Portland for all of the wrong reasons. So they would come there. Maybe when they came, they were still a Christian. Maybe they were in the process of, in modern language, deconstructing or whatever. And then they would slowly but surely lose their faith to the city and wind up entirely off the map. And it was really interesting watching that as a pastor, time after time after time. The two primary catalysts that I saw for people walking away from their faith was one, the all-enveloping indoctrination of progressive sexual ethics. And the other was a particular strain of Christian teaching called Meticulous Providence, saying that every single evil things that happens is for God's glory and your good. Those were the two primary reasons when I would pastorally listen to people, why are you walking away from your faith? It was those two things. It was basically sex and progressivism and the culture on one side, but from inside the church, it was this teaching. And if that teaching is true and biblical, then there are many true and biblical things that cause people to walk away from the faith. But if it's actually a misreading of what is true and biblical, then that is a catastrophe, you know? So I think this is not just a dry academic kind of theoretical thing. I think this is, even though a lot of my best Christian friends disagree on this one, I think it's worth some healthy debate, you know, because of the implications that it has.
Even just wrestling it with yourself. Or your spouse, or your friends, you don't have to read 50 books. Just talk about it at dinner tonight, and be like, "What do you think about God is in control?" And just
how do you, and how do you face your pain through? I mean, either way, you have to, life will get you to the spot eventually. Some people it does very, very young, but where the Band-Aids just at some point a Band-Aid just doesn't work. At some point, you end up in the emergency room, or you know what I mean. Nobody gets through adulthood unscathed.
Yeah, that's right.
And so in that moment, are you familiar, Annie, with John Woolman's idea of spiritual bypassing?
No.
Oh, I love this idea. It's a psychologist named John Woolman, and interesting, he was actually criticizing Buddhism, in particular the kind of California secular version of Buddhism, which is not actually Buddhism. But I think it's so true of American evangelicals. But he called it spiritual bypassing, which he called the tendency to use spiritual language, ideas, words, metaphors to bypass facing unresolved emotional pain, developmental tasks, issues from your family of origin. So Christians do that. He was kind of critiquing, yuppie California Buddhists in the 90s. But I think it's just as true of kind of evangelical speak, where we'll use true language like, the best is yet to come, or we have the hope of Christ, or Christ's back, whatever. All this, a lot of times it's like quotes from scripture, or it's truth, but the way it's used is a coping mechanism of avoidance and denial, where people just don't want to face, I had a rotten childhood and it really messed me up in these ways, and I'm allergic to intimacy because of ... But that's just too painful to face. And so we often grasp for spiritual, and then it's Scazzero's whole thing of using God to hide from God, which sounds so bizarre, but we can use Christian faith and theology to hide from our pain, which ironically is hiding from the deepest parts of ourselves, which is where we meet God. And so you end up distancing yourself from God using the language of God.
I may have said this to you in real life, but I certainly said it to my counselor very recently of sometimes I'm afraid to tell God what I really think about God because I don't know what it's going to unravel.
100%.
Right. And it's that where I'm like, okay,
can't go there. I can't open that can of worms.
That's it. If
that don't sound fun.
What's going to happen to the rest of what I've believed for this whole time? So how about I just leave that on the shelf? And everyone I've said it to, I swear I think you said this to me, but for sure my counselor said to me, that those are the things you actually have to walk toward. Those are the things that, whatever those can of worms are the thing that will lead to more intimacy with Christ. You have to walk toward those. And so we have been. I mean, that's what we've been working on for 6 months.
That's it.
Is let's pull those cans off the shelf and go something will happen when we open this, but you're not alone in it. I mean, if you knew how much she was but you're not by yourself. I'm with you. God is who he says he is. And I'm but since I was 14, I've thought this and I've just never asked,
Yes, and I've never said it, and I don't want to face. Yeah, David Benner has that line. He was a Christian psychologist. He has that line. Freud was wrong about pretty much everything, but he was right that whatever we refuse to acknowledge about ourselves, we give the most power.
Yeah, wow.
And so it's ironic, when we don't face those things, those painful aspects of our life, our past, our present, in an attempt to not feel the pain, we distance ourselves from God, and we actually give those things power to malform our behavior and to block the flow of love. It all ends up in various ways sabotaging us becoming loving people.
Yes. And receiving love from God, like actually being an open enough
Absolutely.
vessel. Like
and those two things are so interlinked.
Yes. If I keep those cans on the shelf, to continue with the metaphor, if I keep those cans on the shelf, I'm actually not protecting myself. I'm missing out. I'm actually missing out on God loving me straight through the thing I'm most afraid of.
Yeah, I mean, gosh, so many thoughts coming to mind, but I could not agree more. You know, Annie, there's a rightful backlash that's been brewing against the therapeutic kind of nature of our wider culture. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of it's well-deserved. To the point that kind of do the work has entered the lexicon of at least millennial speak and now has become kind of a parody, you know? And it's almost like a badge of honor, like, oh, she hasn't done the work. Oh, Annie, she's really doing the work right now, you know? Right. And of course, there's a strain of, you know, Christian tradition that freaks out over that language because it's like, it's not about what we do, it's about what he's done. And there's that whole strain of the church. But when you actually listen to like a good, thoughtful therapist talk about what it is to do the work, all that means is basically move toward the pain.
Wow.
Like, don't hide from it, don't deny it, don't avoid it, don't bypass it, don't spiritualize it. Look at your pain in the face, notice it, name it, move toward the pain, wait there, and meet God in it. Yeah. And, you know, the older I get, it's so, we all know this, but I do so much. I don't know if we've talked about active and passive spirituality before, but I do so much on the active side of Christian spirituality and discipleship, of spiritual disciplines and keeping Sabbath, which we may or may not get to talk about. I don't know. And all of this stuff and teaching scripture in church. But I still think that most of our formation into people of love and Christ-like character comes on the passive side of just living through pain and suffering.
Yes.
But you have to do that with God. You have to meet God in your pain and suffering, or it will just make you worse, not better. And God will not use it for good. Satan will use it for evil.
Yes.
So I just think the stakes are really, really high. And the power is if you meet God in your pain, like that is how we grow. I mean,
that when I think about Sabbath, John Mark, one of the gifts of it for me is I grieve every Saturday. Because my natural inclination during a Monday through Friday.
You're not hiding.
Yeah, I'm going like, listen, I'm having too much fun. I'm hanging out with these people. I'm doing this stuff. I'm working every day. I'm traveling to and something hurts my feelings or something goes sideways or I'm disappointed about something and I tuck it away. And before Garden City, before 2015, before I went to Israel, all in that same window of time, and Sabbath wasn't a part of my life, I never uncorked that bottle. I just kept putting things in it. And then what I started realizing is like my Saturday mornings now, there is laughter, there is celebration, there's joy. I'm always playing with kids at some point in the day. But I'm telling you, I grieve every single Sabbath because it's almost like it's this, I have to. The quiet with God, he won't let me ignore that anymore.
Yeah, the Hebrews call it the Sabbath sadness.
Really? You have never told me this. I didn't know this.
Well, I think there are ways to avoid it, by the way. But
tell me more, because I wish.
It's not always a sign of health, but I think it is a very normal phase in the 24-hour period of Sabbath, where you just perfectly articulated it, where the busyness, all the things that you ran away from that week, catch up to you.
Yes. Does that happen to you too?
If you sit with them, most Sabbaths, yes. Yeah. Wow. Or frequently, and they pass through your body if you let them.
Yes.
And the best part of my Sabbath is always the end. I find myself more and more buoyant by the end. And we start Sabbath in Saturday evenings, and the morning, kind of mid-morning is always kind of the worst time for me. It's just like all that stuff just catches up to me, you know?
I sit there. I have this one chair in Nashville that I sit in. It is, I think I bought it in 2006 or 5. So it's this khaki with black swirls on it like we used to do. I mean,
come on.
Nothing trendy by any stretch, but I'm like, I have sown too many tears in this fabric to have this chair recovered. It is, I don't care where I live. This chair goes with me everywhere. But I will sit in that chair, John Mark, and I will feel the Lord say, a topic will come to mind or a hurt will come to mind, and it will be sit here and let's work it all the way out. And it doesn't even have to be words or even like sobbing. It is almost like you said, it almost has to pass through my whole body. And they go like, okay, that was really painful. I should probably acknowledge how painful that was. I should probably listen and see if the Holy Spirit has something for me in it that I didn't know or didn't pay attention to.
Yeah.
Often for me, it's me looking for protection, trying to identify where God's protection was happening, where it sometimes feels like his removal of something I care about, and it's often his protection.
No, I'm just thinking of like all the new science around EMDR and how the brain can't release something until it's made meaning from it. And so it sounds fairly esoteric, but if you hear EMDR people talk about all of this, they would say that pain gets stuck in our body if it's never processed in a healthy way, if our brain can't make meaning of it. And usually that's done through relationship. And of course, for us, we have relationship with God and other people, and it's a both and. And so through relationship, our brain is able to kind of make meaning of our pain, find love and comfort and attunement in our pain from God and trusted friends. And then that pain is able to pass through our body. But if that doesn't happen, then it can get stuck in the body. And again, this sounds esoteric, which the whole point of EMDR is to try to go back to those memories and get pain that's, and literally, like experts will say, get stuck in parts of your body. I think there's emerging evidence to say it actually begins to deform the shape of your body for some people. And so I just think, that micro practice before it becomes this macro traumatic thing requiring intervention, that micro, like just cleansing your body of the emotional toxins that life puts into it every single day.
It's one of the things John Eldridge is talking about a lot right now is if counseling and therapy and EMDR are the only way that God can heal people, what about the people who can't afford it? What about the people in third world? What if that? He's like, no, God, those resources are great, but God can do all the healing in your spirit and your body one-on-one if you need him to, And I've found that a very, it's kind of reworked some of my theology, John Mark, to go like, oh yeah, if this isn't true for a trafficked child in the third world, this theology isn't true for them, it's actually not true for me either.
That sounds fun.
Hey friends, just interrupting this conversation, tell you about one of our incredible partners, Wayfair. If you're having a backyard get-together, Wayfair is your one-stop shop for outdoor entertaining. Cookout, shop patio tables, grills, and dishware. Pool party, invite me. Kick back with a lounge chair, day bed, an umbrella. A game night, Wayfair has got cornhole, croquet, and stringy lights to set the scene. Plus, it is free and easy delivery, even on the big stuff. No more huge delivery fees for patio furniture. You can get big stuff like patio sets and gazebos and hot tubs and outdoor dining sets and more, all shipped for free. Y'all know I love scrolling that Wayfair app. They basically furnish my entire New York apartment and even will assemble the pieces for you, which is so helpful. Listen, in my New York apartment with all of those stairs, having help with delivery and setup was a game changer. Shop outdoor furniture, grills, lawn games, and way more for way less. Head to wayfair.com right now to explore a huge outdoor selection. Again, that's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. Okay, now back to our conversation with John Mark Comer.
That sounds fun.
I sent you some questions, and this is one that comes up sometimes about Sabbath is for rich people. And the ability to rest, to take an entire day off of work is a privileged thing. And so there are things like that I've been working through about like my theology, how much of my theology is based on being a privileged white woman in America versus scripture. So is Sabbath for rich people?
Well, I'm very familiar with that critique or question. It's normally phrased as a critique. I've only ever heard it from, quote, rich people that don't want to keep Sabbath. I have never once heard that from somebody that is referred to in the polemic. In fact, most of the people I know, and I'm in relationship with a few right now, who are whatever language you would like to use, under-resourced, who are struggling financially. Their problem is not too much work; it's not enough work, and the lack of stability in their work. And there's an increasing divide where the workaholism, the exhaustion, is a problem of the quote successful, and underemployment is the problem of a huge swath of America. Now there are exceptions to that, and there's the hypothetical single mom working 3 kids to make her ends meet. And that's where I think when Sabbath is viewed through the lens of individualized wellness spirituality, then it is corrupted into kind of like a day spa for the soul that, yes, is only accessible to people that have control of their time, that have enough money to take a day off, so on and so forth. But that's not the biblical imagination for Sabbath. The biblical imagination for Sabbath is community. And so Sabbath is a communal discipline. And unfortunately, because most churches, because our wider political world, the country has abandoned Sabbath and blue laws, most churches that then kind of existed in a larger Christendom political thing where it was like illegal to operate businesses on Sunday, just let that happen without standing at the gates. And so most churches do not keep Sabbath. And therefore, most Christians who keep Sabbath have to do it independently of their churches. And so then Sabbath becomes, for most people, an individual thing. Like Annie Downs is going to go Sabbath. She's going to pick when to Sabbath. She's going to pick how she Sabbaths. And that's fine. It's certainly better than no Sabbath, but that's not the imagination of the 4th commandment, which is a community commandment. It's to all of Israel. In fact, it only made sense inside a theocratic thing where you could, one of the challenges of Sabbath in the New Testament, because the gospel was going all to these Greco-Roman slaves. Sunday was a work day. And they couldn't just like take the day off and like tell their master, sorry, I'm just caring for my soul right now. I need to do journaling for 4 hours and work out my emotional pain. Like they would be beat, So it was a real sociological challenge for the early Christians. And one of the reasons the New Testament is ambiguous around commands for the Sabbath. But in the 10 Commandments, it's envisioned as a community-wide thing for your, not just for the people, but for your manservant, your maidservant, for your donkey. You're actually to bring, and the onus of responsibility is on those with privilege in our vernacular to create and curate Sabbath for those under their love and care. And so whenever somebody comes to me who is pretty much always a person of means and critiques the keeping of Sabbath by, is this only for rich people? I would say, then what are you doing to create Sabbath for those around you? And what are you doing to actually make Sabbath impossible for those around you? Are you requiring people to work so that you can not work? And how could you share your resources? How could you, and not just you as an individual, but again, you as a community, what could a community do to make Sabbath possible? So to the hypothetical scenario of the single parent working 3 jobs, I would offer an alternative hypothetical scenario. What if your home community of 20 people all said, hey, we'll give $100 a month together to supplement this person so they can work 2 jobs and take Sundays off, or whatever it is. So that's a hypothetical with a hypothetical, not helpful.
No, it is.
My point is, I think Sabbath is intended to be done in community, and they're in the top ideal, top shelf, like, oh man, if it could be this way, which life is really like that. Then a community would create Sabbath for others. AJ Swoboda, his wonderful book on Sabbath, he writes about how Sabbath is a form of scheduled social justice. And it's like in the epitome of how it was intended to be done.
I mean, the version that comes to my mind is how now grocery stores are sometimes open at on Christmas Day. And you think
anathema.
Somebody has to work. Like if I need chicken soup on Christmas Day, then I can go get it now. That's cool. But that also means that guy checking me out has to work on Christmas Day. And that's, I mean, you did a series at Bridgetown. I'm sorry, I don't remember when. You did a whole series on Sabbath, and you did one on not shopping. And it really affected me because I was like, it's the same with recycling. Am I saving the world by recycling my plastics? No, but am I doing my part to not contribute to plastic being in the bottom of the ocean? Yes. The same is true with shopping. I'm not shutting down shops by not going shopping on my Sabbath, but I'm doing my part to say, I will not force people to work 7 days a week. I will not buy things 7 days a week. And so that's directly your teaching, keeping me from consuming constantly. And I don't think I'd have known that Sabbath was about not consuming from the world on that day as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a subplot in the biblical thread on Sabbath, but it's very much there. Do not buy and sell on the Sabbath. And part of that is to arrest your own heart's acquisitiveness that is ravenous and never satisfied. And there's that little book, Walter Brueggemann has an incredible short little book on Sabbath called Sabbath is Resistance. Very theological, very polemical, very like anti, modern empire. It's not like a wellness book. It's a little punch in the face. Yeah. But the other piece of it isn't just for our own hearts, like contentment and to resist greed and materialism. It's for others. Mm-hmm. It's so that we are not taking our rest and our leisure at the expense and on the backs of the poor.
Yes, that's it. It's been really funny, John Mark, recording these summer episodes. As you can imagine, when we did winter, it was dark, right? We were getting DMs of like, hey, I'm not sure I like this new rhythm. I'm like, welcome to winter. I get it, And spring, everything was pretty light. And people, it felt like revival and alive. And an interesting thing has happened is as we've recorded these summer episodes, this has been a theme, this kind of like life is harder. And I wouldn't have thought summer would lead to that. I would have thought summer would lead to let's have so much fun outside and rest and play and all these things. And instead, it feels like we're talking a lot about the expectations we put on summer and how it never meets them. It never meets them.
Well, it's the same as summer in some sense. My summer vacation always feels like an extended version of my weekly Sabbath in that in the North American kind of work year for a lot of people like myself who take a long summer break, it's like the accumulated pain of the whole year starts to catch up to you. Yes. Just like at Sabbath, the accumulated pain of the last 6 days starts to catch up to you.
Yes.
And that fatigue that, I carry that in my body. I don't know if this is like my early 40s, but the last 3 years, every like May or June, right before vacation, I start sleeping really bad. I'm normally a pretty good sleeper. So like right now I'm waking up every morning at like 4 a.m, not because I'm Saint Benedict, because like I wake up anxious, and it's just the overload of stress of just work and life and parenting teenagers and living in a busy, noisy, chaotic world and the fires and our house almost burning down. Just like it all builds up, know, and it needs a kind of cathartic release, which is rest.
How did you identify? So I had a similar experience. I think you remember this, but I've had 3 surgeries, 3 Augusts in a row. And
I'm so sorry.
Brutal, absolutely brutal. And every time I say to the Lord, what did I not learn last year that you needed me to do this again? Like, why are we going again? I'm telling you, I'm not doing that this August. But I started to recognize, okay, God, while it is natural in my body, things he's healing my body through surgery. Also, he is slowing me down every August, 3 years running. So what do I need to do different? So how did you identify?
What do you need to learn?
What do I need to learn? I was like, please get me off this roller
coaster.
Thinking
of Wayne Mueller's line about Sabbath, it's so ominous. He has that line, Sabbath is coming for you, whether as discipline or delight.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly how my last 3 Augusts have been. It's like, you're going to be on your couch, whether you like it or not. You're going to not do the things you thought you were going to do, whether you like it or not. When you started recognizing, okay, every summer as we're getting close to our break, I'm waking up in the middle of the night or early in the morning.
Yeah.
People are coming alive to that in their own. There's a self-awareness happening and people go, oh, that's right. I always get short with my family in May. Or I always, vacation. I always get, on day 2 of vacation, I always have a migraine. That kind of vibe. What do we do once we've recognized a pattern like that?
Well, you have to recognize that rest alone is not curative for that problem. So you can go on sabbatical and take
Wow.
3 months off, and you can come back and it'll be amazing, maybe. And then you'll come back and you'll be right back where you started. That is a systems of life problem. You know, the business line that Willard used to quote, your system is perfectly designed to give you the results that you are getting.
Yeah.
So, you know, I treat both Sabbath and my kind of longer break in the summer as I do this thing myself and our team we call fallow season. Both of them I take as like a litmus test or an acid test of my overall pace of life. Because what you're naming about Sabbath and a season of sadness, or often like on Sabbath, for example, I will just be exhausted.
Yeah.
I'll just be so tired. But Sabbath is actually, in the biblical imagination, supposed to be a day of delight, a day of joy. But if all I'm doing is kind of emotionally crashing all day long and grumpy with my family and just wanting to hide and be myself the whole day, that is a loving sign from my body and my heart that my week was not ordered well at some level.
Yeah.
And some of that is out of my control. Just life happens, pain happens, chaos comes. But some of that is I made bad decisions with my time. I said yes to too many things. I worked too many hours. I wasted time in certain ways. I stayed up too late watching TV and didn't get enough sleep, whatever. So, you know, Andy Crouch has said some good things about this, but the daily renewal cycle of evening and morning is supposed to be your physical and emotional renewal. So, but if you don't get enough sleep at night and margin in your day, ideally daily to process the pain of that day, then Sabbath becomes a physical and emotional recovery day rather than the crown of your week, the day of joy.
Wow.
And the same with summer vacation. If you have a couple weeks off, if you have that privilege or whatever in the summer, and you spend the first half of it in a fugue, just taking 4-hour naps all day long and journaling your Albert Camus level atheism to God, then it's probably a loving sign like, okay, that year did not go well. And sometimes, again, there's things out of your control. I could not control like the world burning down around me, right?
Yes,
and the roads all getting closed to our house and our kids' commute to school becoming 4 hours. Like that was outside of my control. But what is in my control is like how many things I said yes to and work, and like there's so many things where I mismanage my time. And managing your time or stewarding your life in more biblical language is really hard to do well. It is extraordinarily hard. It takes community, it takes grace, it takes wisdom. It brings you up to all your disordered coping mechanisms of people pleasing or ambition or greed or fear. I mean, all of that deep primal stuff comes up with how we manage our schedule. I mean, Ortberg has that awesome line, hurry isn't just the sign of a disordered schedule, it's often the sign of a disordered heart. There's often a reason that we overwork or overcommit or overspend or overtravel or oversay yes or overplease. There's often deep, deep reasons of brokenness in us that we end up in those places. And so I don't think the point here is self-judgment, it's self-awareness. And so I think every Sabbath and then every year at least, there should be a long time where you can kind of get away from the world and get away from your life in it to more look at your life in the world more objectively. And that takes distance, time, space. You only want to do that from a rested state or you will see it through blurry eyes. And I think one of the things you should always ask is like the stop, start, continue, like what needs to change in my life? Because rest is not going to fix systemic problems. Rest is really, really important. I believe in it deeply. But if the system and the architecture of your life is malformed, then you can take a year off. And 3 months later, you'll be right back where you started.
Right. You can stop the train, but if the tracks aren't built in front of you, they're not going to get built in front of you. That's exactly
100%.
right, John Mark. That's really good. It's it feels like you're giving us an invitation to self-awareness and to paying attention to zoom out and look at the whole thing and make sure you're not walking into your rest, asking it to be a doctor.
And again, we're using American examples of vacation, summer vacation. The biblical motif here is retreat. Like you see Jesus regularly retreat, disappear, run off and hide, get up early, and sometimes they're short. He gets up before it's still dark, when it's still dark, and they find him by lunchtime. Other times it's 40 days,
Yep.
There's short and there's long, but this practice of retreat you see woven into Jesus' life. Often after intense moments of output, you see him disappear or go up on a mountain. Or, I used to always read like these all-night vigils that Jesus does as these like heroic monastic feats of prayer.
Yes.
And that's certainly there, but I actually think his life was so pressured, so in demand, that was the only place he could go process his life with God and work through this stuff and be alone with God, was in the middle of the night, because that was the level of pressure. So like all the young parents are like, you are not alone,
Yeah, that's right.
Jesus felt that 10x.
Yes.
And but I just think that practice of retreat, whether it manifests as a week at a monastery or, a few days in Cabo or camping and going trout fishing, whatever you do, whatever world you come from. I just think getting out of your life to look at your life, like entrepreneurs talk about when you're working for the business and when you're working on the business.
Yeah, that's right.
So two separate things.
Yes, that's right.
When you need to get out of your life to look and work on your life.
Yes.
And I just think that's really important.
That sounds fun.
And now back to finish up our conversation with John Mark Comer.
That sounds fun.
So, and we're halfway through summer when people are hearing this.
Yeah.
There's people saying back to us.
Oh, you just made me so happy. I'm realizing I'm going to be sitting on an island in
Yeah.
British Columbia when people are listening to
Great.
this.
Well
We
done.
rented this tiny little cabin on this tiny little island, a long ferry ride with like one grocery store.
Oh, I love it.
For 2 weeks.
You and Tammy and the kids, everybody?
Whole family, yeah. We do a whole week device free every summer.
Oh, I love it.
It will just be, my teenagers hate it, but they do it.
Listen, dude,
They're
when
up
I
for
list
it.
the things I'm excited about getting married around, one of them is having a device-free vacation.
Yeah, device free. We
I
play
can't
board.
wait.
I loathe board games, but we
Yeah.
play board games and we
Do y'all
bring
have
puzzles.
Tinsy? Do you take Tinsy?
I've never heard of Tinsy.
Coming
But tell
in the
my
mail.
kids, everybody in my family likes board games except for me, which is not good.
Nope, you're gonna love Tinsy. I've got you. This is the
Okay.
one you're gonna love. I believe in
Okay.
myself. But people have gotten to this point in the year, and this point in the summer, it's halfway, and it has not met their expectations. They are not rested, and they do not know. And you know this about my personality, but I always feel like there's holes in my bucket. And so my whole spiritual formation is about believing that time is on my side, not against me. And so there are people who think the summer is slipping through my fingers and I do not feel better. I am still not rested, and school is starting and everything's kicking back up, and I'm going to get back in the grind and I'm not going to make it. What's your wisdom and your advice or your thoughts for people who are feeling like the panic of I am not rested and I've got to be?
Yeah. Well, the first thing I would just say is it's okay. This is maybe a terrible answer, but I always find it so helpful when people normalize pathology, you know? The clinical definition of neuroticism is when you suffer more than you need to.
Yeah, wow.
And I think both the entrepreneurial wellness culture of kind of TikTok therapeutic influencer world, and which is a multi-billion-dollar industry at some level of us getting all of our supplements and essential oils and massages and the right pillows and the right meditation techniques and the right apps downloaded. There's billions here. And often a somewhat true but not very honest culture in evangelicalism Like most evangelical preaching I hear, this is a little critiquey and I'm sorry for that, but it's just profoundly dishonest about how hard life is, how hard spiritual change is, how slow spiritual growth is,
Yep.
how long seasons often are where we don't really sense God's presence like we ache for. The many areas where we get deeply stuck and we don't feel that our felt experience mimics the freedom and victory and healing and all the stuff that we talk about. You know, the lyrics of the Psalms map perfectly onto my experience. The lyrics of Sunday church do not map on.
as
They
often.
map onto
Yes.
like what I wish my experience was, but
of
not what it
course.
actually is, because we don't sing like the Psalms, and that's a whole other story. But I think it's just so helpful to just normalize that at some level. It's okay to get to the end of the summer and be tired. It's probably just because you're a parent, or because you have a demanding job, or because like sometimes we've been trained to believe that exhaustion means we've done something wrong, and that pain means we've done something wrong.
It's good.
So if a marriage is painful, I'm out. God wants me to be happy, right? He would never want me to experience pain.
Yeah.
What world are you living in? This is part of the, oh man, we're getting into dicey waters now, but the evangelical reading of atonement theory makes the cross something that we have to escape rather than something that we emulate as disciples of Jesus.
Wow.
Jesus said in the Gospel of Mark, I'm going to Jerusalem. The Son of Man will be crucified, buried, and the third day will rise again. And then the next sentence, he turns around. He does not say, I'm doing this so that you can live a pain-free life and never go through this. He turns around and says the opposite. Therefore, if anyone would come after me, let them take up their cross and follow after me. The cross is not something that Christ does only in place of us. Much of it is what he does ahead of us for us to follow the cruciform pattern of life, death to self, followed by life and resurrection in God. That is the archetypal Christian pattern. And everything in us wants to avoid the cross. Jesus, you do it for us. I don't want to go there. And I'm not saying we suffer in a theological atonement reconciliation with God sense, but we certainly follow Christ's example into the places of pain. That's N.T. Wright's whole thing. That's what a Christian is. We are the people who stand with God in prayer where the world is in pain. And so we've been conditioned both by the therapeutic wellness culture and often by some of our own Christian culture to think that pain means something is not right and we need to run away from it. And exhaustion is a sign that something is not right. And there's truth in some of that, right? Pain is caused by sin. And exhaustion is often because we can't manage our time and we're workaholics or we're greedy or we want too much stuff or we're in too big of a house or like all these things. But sometimes you're exhausted because you're living a generative life. You're caring for a 2-year-old. You're doing a podcast. You're serving the poor. You're starting a church. You're starting a business. Like you're working hard. You're providing
hard,
for your
so you're
family.
tired.
You're tired. You know what I mean? We forget there are 2 parts to the Sabbath commandment. For 6 days you shall work.
Say it. That's
But
right.
the 7th is, and you know, a lot of people need to hear, like you and I need to hear the Sabbath one over and over. Some people need to hear the for 6 days you shall work part, you know? I don't mean that in a mean way. It's just true. And
that's
so I just think, man, yes, rest. I mean, I'm such a big believer. I'm just a huge believer in all of this stuff. But exhaustion, pain, some of this is just life, and some of it's actually a sign that you are following Christ. And you are on the cruciform path, and pain is okay. The goal of life is not to be happy and well-rested. The goal of happiness and rest is to be loving. And love, there's that little book, you know, I am so anti-hardcore meticulous providence, which is the theological word for God's in control. Like, it's one of the few, I really tried, I'm a pretty open-minded, I'm a pretty like great tradition Orthodox, you know, so I'm not like Reformed or Lutheran or Wesleyan. I'm like, I read really, really widely. I have a really, really wide open heart. Some people hate that about me. And I'm very Orthodox. I'm not progressive at all, but I'm very Orthodox in my faith, but believe in the stream of Christianity. But I really struggle with meticulous providence because I
Yeah.
just think it really bothers me.
Yes.
But there's this little book that's hardcore theological determinism called Don't Waste Your Sorrows. And I disagree with 50% of it. But the other 50% of it is so good. It's this old book. And the basic point the author makes is that the point of life as a Christian is to become a person of love. Love, as defined by Jesus, is sacrificing for the good of another. Sacrificing for the good of another hurts. It's painful. Therefore, pain is the primary way that we become more loving as people. So in one sense, your ability to love is not your ability to feel warm feelings for people. That's like LA Malibu quote love, not Christian love.
Yeah.
It's your capacity to handle pain on behalf of another. It's the cross.
Amen, my friend. That's it. Thank you, John Mark. You're a gift, my friend.
Easier said than done. That's really easy to say on a podcast.
No, but
it's really
if you
hard to
don't
live.
say it, we don't even try.
Yeah.
And so you say it and it gives us the opportunity to try. And
I'm just thinking, man, I need to hear what I just said.
yeah, me too. Me too. I mean, every book I write is to me first, right? I mean, so
Yeah.
of course. But
100%.
what a gift, my friend. Thank you. Is there anything we didn't get to say that you want to make sure we say?
I just am here to hang out with you.
I love hanging out with you. Oh, I'm just so thankful.
Jambling conversation, just made up a word, is because I had nothing to say. I'm just
Great. Well,
here
thank
to you in this weird world where you give me a prompt and I just say what's on my mind. And I'm pretty sure that Jesus would never do something like that. So here I am.
I cannot believe that's true. I would imagine Jesus did exactly that. When the young
Do a lot better.
rich young ruler says, "I've done everything. What do I do?" Jesus gives him an answer right back. So
He
you're just
does.
like him. You're just like the Lord and
done.
Savior. Thank you, John Mark, for making time for us. It is always
Thank
such
you,
a
Annie.
gift.
So much
really.
love to you and all your listeners. It's such a delight to be with you.
Thank you. Oh, you guys, isn't he the best? His wisdom. I'm so, so thankful. If you haven't read Garden City or The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry, go grab your copies today. Make sure you're following John Mark on social media. Tell him thank you for being on the show. If you enjoyed this episode, I think you'll also really love episode 898 with John Eldridge when we talked about last year how to rest well in the summer. Listen, it is not too late in the summer for you to rest well. So let's go. Figure it out. Use this advice. Go listen to John Eldridge. Get some rest. If you have any questions from this episode, just drop them in the Q&A box on your Spotify app if you're a Spotify listener like me, or send them to us on Instagram at That Sounds Fun Podcast. We'll try to answer them there. If you need anything else from me, you know I'm embarrassingly easy to find. Annie F. Downs on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, anywhere you may need me, that's where you can find me. We are back from our summer Sabbath and ready to party. I think that's it for me today, friends. Go out or stay home, do something that sounds fun to you. I'll do the same. Today, what sounds fun to me? Figuring out what I want for lunch. I am hungry. I don't know about y'all, but I'm hungry. So lunch sounds fun to me today. Y'all have a great week. Guess what? We'll see you back here on Thursday with our July episode of Annie and Eddie Keep Talking. We'll see y'all then.
That sounds fun.
That sounds fun.
Oh, that sounds fun.
Check 1, 2 on the microphone. Annie F. Downs in your car to your home. Every week it's something new. A deep talk or an interview. She'll make you laugh, she'll make you cry. When it's dark out, she's a light.